Hi, I'm Dwayne Brown. Tonight on KPBS Evening Edition, an attorney from San Diego is appointed to help defend the suspect in the Boston Marathon bombing. And an NBA player makes sports history coming out as gay.
And Congress takes on the labeling debate over genetically modified organisms, or GMO. We go to both sides of the table for their take on the Right to Know Act. Then culinary champion Mei Yu explores San Diego's hidden farm and food treasures in our new KPBS show, Savor San Diego, our preview of the new 6-week series. I'm Peggy Pico. KPBS Evening Edition starts now.
KPBS Evening Edition is made possible by Joan and Irwin Jacobs and by
Hello, good evening. Thanks for joining us. An attorney from San Diego will join the legal team of the suspect in the Boston Marathon bombing. Judy Clark has become known for taking on high-profile death penalty cases. Her past clients have included Susan Smith, who drowned her 2 children, Unabomber Ted Kaczynski, and most recently Arizona shooter Jared Loughner. All of them received life sentences. 19-year-old Dzhokhar Tsarnaev is charged with using a weapon of mass destruction in the Boston bombing 2 weeks ago. He could face the death penalty. Just last week, Clark was the keynote speaker at the Loyola Law School event. She told the audience there her clients usually don't want to plead guilty and said her job is to help them find a reason to live. Now, the Boston bombing was one of the factors leading to some sports history today. NBA veteran Jason Collins became the first active player in a major American team sport to say he's gay. Collins says he's considered coming out last month when the Supreme Court heard arguments over California's Proposition 8 and the Defense of Marriage Act. He told Sports Illustrated, quote, "Less than 3 miles from my apartment, 9 jurists argued about my happiness and future. Here was my chance to be heard, and I couldn't say a thing." Collins says the bombing gave him an extra push, quoting again, "Things can change in an instant, so why not live truthfully?" Collins is a free agent who most recently played for the Washington Wizards. He says he hopes to stay with the NBA. His announcement has drawn words of support from the Wizards and even the White House. PBS NewsHour will have more coming up at 7 tonight. More than 400,000 Californians are starting to feel the pinch of federal budget cuts. That's because their long-term unemployment benefits are being reduced starting today. These are the benefits starting after 6 months of unemployment. People will now get an average of $52 a week less. U.S. Supreme Court has rejected an appeal to revive parts of an Alabama immigration law. It was one of the toughest in the country, making it a crime to harbor people who are in the country illegally. A federal appeals court blocked it, saying states don't have authority for immigration reform. Border Patrol says it rounded up more than a dozen people this morning trying to enter San Diego illegally by boat. The boat was found south of Torrey Pines State Beach. 2 of the people on board had to be treated for hypothermia. San Diego's second oldest city was established in 1887. It still has some of the historic Victorian homes built back then. And today, a kid who grew up in the neighborhood is now chief of police in National City. So what came to mind when you first saw your name under police chief?
Well, I think it was a wow. You know, it's something that I've been working, I think, for really my whole career.
Manuel Rodriguez has been a cop for nearly 28 years and was recently elevated to chief of police in a community he grew up in.
Okay, now it's time to perform. You know, now you've got an opportunity to really serve the people how you feel they should be served.
Rodriguez spent 20 years with the San Diego Police Department, where he learned the value of community policing.
Really what made the difference was that the community felt that the officers were working with them. And it actually worked the other way, too, because now the officers felt, an obligation to the community.
He brought community policing to National City 8 years ago. It appears to be paying off. The crime rate there dropped 25% since 2006. They are also the first in the county to install motion-activated cameras in non-residential areas, where neighbors have reported drug activity and prostitution.
And we're looking to expand them to other areas like parks and those kinds of things. And again, this is not about intruding on personal privacy, but really, in the public areas.
Rodriguez knows all about the challenges officers face on a daily basis and says he avoided trouble as a kid growing up there by participating in sports. He also helped form relationships with fellow officers in Mexico several years ago, working closely with former chief turned mayor Jerry Sanders. He says regardless of what they're doing, he always reminds his officers to be kind and compassionate.
Because we're constantly being, bombarded with challenges, but we rise to meet those challenges, and I think that's what's important. And so the idea to serve and to make a difference continues.
As Police Chief, Rodriguez will oversee a more than $21 million annual budget and a staff of 120 people, including 80 police officers. San Diego Unified's Chief of Staff is retiring on June 30th. Bernie Reinerson has been with the district for 5 years, working with 2 different superintendents through a period of financial struggles for schools. He's planning to go back to teaching at San Diego State University. And the former head of the Scripps Institution of Oceanography has died. Edward Fryman was also a national advisor on defense, energy, and science policy. He took part in some early testing of the atomic bomb. He was head of Scripps for a decade before retiring. Fryman was 87. Lawmakers in Washington introduced a bill to require labels for genetically engineered foods. Peggy Pico talks with local experts on both sides of this issue.
The new bill is sponsored by Senator Barbara Boxer. It requires foods that contain genetically modified organisms, or GMOs, be labeled. Despite a recent Mellman poll that found 91% of Americans support GMO labeling, similar legislation, Proposition 37, failed to pass in California last year. Here with a look from both sides of the table are my guests, UC San Diego biologist Stephen Briggs and David Bronner of Dr. Bronner's Magic Soap. Welcome. Steve, 64 other countries require genetically engineered foods to be labeled, but you believe scientifically there's no reason for concern or for those labels.
No, the safety of these products of biotechnology are well proven, and after decades of use, billions of people, there's not even a single incidence of illness caused by any of these products.
What do you think it is? Why do these other countries want to, label this and put this knowledge there?
It's protectionism. It's trying to keep American products out of their domestic agricultural marketplace.
Now, David, do you disagree with this? What do you think is the issue, the core issue of this labeling debate?
I think Americans, they want to know what's in their food. Fundamentally is about more information, about transparency. Food labels are not simply about health and safety. They're about important production-related information, such as is orange juice from concentrate. What country did your food come from? And is your food genetically engineered or not? I mean, people want to know, is that a genetically engineered apple or not a genetically engineered apple, and make an informed choice.
Do you think, you said, okay, maybe it's not about food safety, but do you think there's also an environmental component to this? Sure.
Well, I mean, personally, I'm very concerned that the single most dominant genetically engineered crop trait is weed killer tolerance. And basically, this is so that Monsanto and other pesticide manufacturers can sell and have farmers blast even more weed killer on our food crops, which is totally unsustainable. It's creating huge selection pressure on weeds to develop resistance, necessitating ever more weed killer.
Let me get a response from you, from Steve, on that. So these are genetically modified seeds, I think we're talking about specifically, right? But they're weed resistant?
Yeah, so I appreciate that David has a ideological opposition to the technology, but I don't think government should mandate ideology on our food labels. They should be reserved, the integrity should be reserved for safety.
When it comes to food labels, though, other things are labeled, organic foods, whether it has any enzymes in it.
That's a great point. So organic and GMO-free private labels are already available for everyone who prefers to use ideology as the basis for their choices. So this would not solve some unmet need. It would simply impose the cost of this new regulation on all consumers, those who have this ideology and the vast majority who don't.
But a lot of people do want to know what they're eating, as you were saying. But opponents, I have to ask you, David, they do say that, oh, look, if we do this, it's going to cost more money. It's going to drive up food costs. It's going to, it's being pushed by the organic industry to make it a more competitive market. Do you think some of that is true?
No, not at all. I think a simple label disclosure costs nothing. In fact, Monsanto, the chief opponent of the Prop 37 effort in California, ran pro-labeling ads in the UK 10 years ago. Basically, there is no cost to disclosing whether or not a food has been genetically engineered or if orange juice is from concentrate. And to Steve's point, I mean, it's not like, oh, just because you can go buy orange juice that says it's not from concentrate, we shouldn't mandate that orange juice that is from concentrate from disclosing that. I mean, we have a right to know what's happening with our food. It
is indeed called the Genetically Engineered Food Right to Know Act. Let me ask you this, Steve. Do you think it's a good idea if for voluntary labeling, for instance, like kosher food is voluntarily labeled?
Yeah, that's the way to handle ideological information. It should be voluntary and it should be paid for by the people who value that information. It shouldn't be imposed, forced on everybody. Essentially, this is forcing this high-priced food down the throat of all Americans.
What do you think, David, on that? Do you think that if we just labeled the food that was not genetically engineered, do you think that would be adequate?
No, I don't. I mean, I think, this is not being driven by the organic industry. I'm on the steering committee of 522, yesam522.com in Washington State, and that's primarily a coalition of salmon fishers, apple growers, and wheat farmers, not organic apple farmers, not organic wheat farmers, but farmers who are concerned that unlabeled apples, unlabeled GMO wheat will ruin the image of apples and fish in the minds of consumer, and they'll just stop buying salmon. They don't know if it's a weird.
They don't have the knowledge of it. So, all right. Well, we can get a whole lot more information on our website about this. So, David Bronner and Stephen Briggs, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Add something else to the list of smart things a smartphone can do: help moms and babies stay healthy. San Diego County is offering a text messaging service called Text for Baby. It delivers 3 text messages a week during a woman's pregnancy and her baby's first year of life. The messages give timely health tips and information about local resources.
And after I had my baby, it has helped me to actually plan ahead on his appointments and what I should be looking towards every month or as he's growing in his development.
The service is expanding to include reminders about childhood immunizations. About 6,300 new and expectant moms use Text for Baby in San Diego County. County officials hope to sign up more. Students and faculty at San Diego State are trying to move beyond using the smartphone for health messages. They're trying to create a whole new way of monitoring our health using wireless technology. The team captain is a childhood cancer survivor, and he says early detection of problems makes a difference.
I was in chemo a week from having a biopsy. If I hadn't been, I wouldn't be here. So it was luck and good administration, right time, right place, and we have to be able to change those odds.
Now, the team has entered Qualcomm's Tricorder XPrize competition, named for a Star Trek device. They're going against more than 250 teams from around the world. The grand prize, $10 million. Spaceship Two made its first powered flight over the Mojave Desert today. The ship is backed by British multimillionaire Richard Branson. It didn't break out of the atmosphere today, but eventually Branson plans to offer suborbital rides to private passengers at a cost of $200,000 each. More than 500 people have already put down a deposit for a flight, but there's still no word on when Spaceship Two will be ready for passengers. A new show is coming to KPBS television this week. Savor San Diego will introduce us to places and people you've likely never seen before. Here's a preview.
The Yang part of our story is in a very different area of our county. in the vast open land of Palomar Mountain at Mendenhall Ranch, there is a 6th-generation rancher raising grass-fed cattle.
Hi, Joe.
So, May?
I can't believe this. This is like in a John Wayne movie.
Yeah.
This is a beautiful country. So where are your cattle?
Our cattle are out on the ranch.
Are you going to show me?
Let's go.
Do I have to get in a horse?
Yep.
You know, I'm a city girl from Bangkok. We don't do this.
Well, we'll change that
help
right
me?
now. Sure.
All right.
My family has been ranching cattle in San Diego County for 6 generations since the late 1800s. We have 15,000 acres. We're located in the northeast county, up around Palomar Mountain, Lake Henshaw area. We have a cow-calf operation. We raise grass-fed beef, and we roughly have about 2,000 stockers on hand at all times. Typically, it's 15 acres of land to support one grass-fed beef. The reason why our beef is unique, one, it's out to pasture its whole life. It's never confined into a feedlot situation. 2, it eats its natural feed. It's not getting force-fed corn or antibiotics. And 3, the health of the animal is just better because it's doing what it is always supposed to do. It's out feeding on pastures. It's doing whatever it wants to do. It has freedom of choice of living its life the way it wants to live. Being grass-fed affects the beef. It's a deeper, darker, richer flavor of beef. It's not blanded out by corn or silage. It's a better product. It's healthier because the fatty acids in the meat is natural. There again, it's not watered down or washed out by products that are commodities that the animals shouldn't be eating in the first place.
This is a big country, Joe.
It is.
I could see why you had to be on a horse.
Yeah.
I'm sure happy to get on that horse, I tell you. Now, I cannot wrap my mind around the fact that your family's been here since 1850.
Mm-hmm. Most of the big ranchers in this area have been here for many, many generations also.
Do you have Indian ranchers here as well?
Yeah, we have people that help us that are native to this area.
So I don't know anything about cows. What's the idea behind having all these cows out here?
Well, the idea of the ranch land out here is it's the cost thing. I mean, you're relying on Mother Nature to provide you the feed for the season. So that's why they're turned out to pasture. I mean, if we had to put them into corrals and feed them hay their whole life, it wouldn't even be feasible. We have to move cattle because they diminish the feed in certain areas, and we want to make sure our pastures stay healthy and also our cattle stay healthy. We move our cattle a couple different ways. We push them by horseback. It's all old school. We push them with water, so we'll shut water troughs off to move them into newer, better pastures. And we also move them with salt, and they move around chasing the salt to different areas. The life cycle of a grass-fed calf is it's born out on the ranch with its mother. It stays with its mother for 7 months. Then it gets weaned off the mother and moves to a different pasture and stays on that new pasture with other calves its age for 8 months. Then it moves from there to our finishing ranch, gets finished for 30 days. Then it goes to the processing facility and goes to market. It's a lifestyle. You're out in the open, you're breathing the fresh air, you're seeing wild animals everywhere, and I'm 6th generation. It's something that was in my blood from the day I was born. And my bosses are my cows, and they tell me what I have to do every day. So I don't know from day to day what I am doing, and that's what I love about it.
Savor San Diego is a winning entry from the KPBS competition called the Explore San Diego Project. My guest, Mei Yu, is an author, cook, restaurant owner, and now host of Savor San Diego. Mei, congratulations.
Thank you.
Your show was one of 52 entries in this competition. How did this series, or how does this series, I should say, explore hidden places in San Diego?
Because I'm a cook. I've known a lot of these people for the last 40 years, and I used their products. I used the ingredients, and we became friends. This is how I cook. I go out and find the best in San Diego, the best treasures.
Well, that clip that we just saw on this farmer who does his beef here. So who else might we meet? I mean, that was something that people don't think about.
The tofu maker. And then, of course, I cook
the tofu maker. Wait, back up on that. Tell us a little bit about the tofu maker.
Well, he is a white folk married to a Chinese woman, and he has a wonderful, wonderful store that he produces organic tofu here in San Diego, and I use it for myself and for my restaurant.
Yeah, I think we see you stirring it right now, getting it ready.
Well, it's delicious. I can guarantee you, it's really, really good. And then, of course, I cook with a lot of seafood. So I met some fishermen who catches the best fresh seasonal shrimp, fish, uni right off the ocean, and there's nothing tastes like it. So you meet them too.
And this is important to you. This 6-week series, you bring a lot of the kind of farm to table concept to San Diego's, but local farming with local ingredients. So why was it important to you to really basically focus on that in the show?
Well, you know, this is how I was brought up. You eat seasonally, and you eat the very best that you could buy right off the land or the ocean. And I want people to get excited about going back to cooking again. Instead of nooking everything, go and find these gorgeous things, and because they are so fresh, you don't have to do a lot to it. The flavor is already there.
No, you prepare a recipe, speaking of flavor, in each episode. What makes this different from your typical cooking show?
You only get a minute of me cooking instead of 15 minutes telling you everything of how to do everything from scratch. So you get a little flavor of what you can do with these fresh ingredients, and give you a recipe so you could try it. And then if you like it, or if you don't like it, you could explore and do your own.
And try it out a little bit.
Yeah.
Why did you want to do this show? You're a busy woman. You cook a lot. You evidently go to farms a lot.
Yes. Well, I want to do the show because I'm, in a way, an educator, and this is my passion. I love to cook, and I could see people not cooking anymore. They think it's a chore. To me, I think it's a joy to get in the kitchen and cook something that is delicious and it's good for you. And it connects you with your family, with your heritage, with the places where you live, and you take good care of the earth because you know where your food is coming from. So it is important to me. And so I take the time to try to do this. And there's no better way to advertise the joy of cooking by showing people where you can get all these marvelous things right here in San Diego. So.
I think a lot of people were surprised, at least a lot of people, when I looked at it, I think a lot of people will be surprised as to some of the hidden treasures that you sort of reveal here.
Yeah.
Now, you opened your first restaurant. A lot of people will remember you from this in 1985. It was a Thai restaurant here in San Diego. How has that experience influenced either the show and or your career?
Well, I think it made me better cook.
Okay.
And also, I'm learning a lot from my customers, because, you know, it changes. Food scene changes a great deal. When I started 25 years ago, people just wanted to eat something different. Thai food was very different. It was not because of health, it was exotic. But today, 25 years later, it's changed. People now want to eat something that is healthful. A lot of people know about Thai food. But they get scared cooking Thai food. They said, oh, it's too much work. But I'm saying, if you get the very best strawberries and get the best vegetable, take you 5 minutes. Go in there and do it.
Not so hard. We'll have to give it a try. Well, Mei Yu, thank you so much for joining us. I really look forward to seeing your show.
Thank you.
And I want to let folks know that Savor San Diego premieres this Thursday night at 9:30 on KPBS TV.
Yes, watch it.
I'm Jeffrey Brown. On the next NewsHour, we talk with survivors of Germany's concentration camps to mark the 20th anniversary of the Holocaust Museum. That's Monday on the PBS NewsHour.
The musical Hands on a Hardbody ran out of gas on the road from the La Jolla Playhouse to Broadway. The show closed after 7 weeks in New York, but today it got 9 Drama Desk nominations, including Outstanding Musical. The awards are given by theater critics and editors. The winners will be announced on May 19th. We're starting a warming trend here in San Diego. Coastal temperatures will start climbing back towards the 70s. For the inland valleys, we'll see upper 80s later in the week. Even the mountains will get into the lower 80s by Thursday. Over 100 degrees in the desert tomorrow, dropping back to the mid-90s later in the week. Recapping tonight's top story, a San Diego-based attorney will join the legal team of the suspect in the Boston Marathon bombing. Judy Clark has become known for taking on high-profile death penalty cases. Her past clients have included Susan Smith, who drowned her 2 children, Unabomber Ted Kaczynski, and most recently Arizona shooter Jared Loughner. All of them received life sentences. 19-year-old Dzhokhar Tsarnaev is charged with using a weapon of mass destruction in the bombing 2 weeks ago in Boston. He could face the death penalty. Just last week, Clark was the keynote speaker at an event at Loyola Law School. She told the audience there her clients usually don't want to plead guilty and said her job is to help them find a reason to live. You can find tonight's stories and download the KPBS app all on our website, kpbs.org/evening edition. Thanks for joining us. Have a great night.